Welcome, everybody, to another episode of SF Live. My name is Kai Hoffman. I'm the CEO of the Soar Financial Group. Today, episode 18. Time is flying. It's crazy. And we're joined by Mark Santarossa, a good personal friend of mine and the VP of Corporate Development for Aurion Resources. Before we get started, though, as always, quick reminder, this is an interactive format. Please use hashtag AskAU for your questions. Mark will answer them happily. Company just put out some drill results, so I'm sure there are some questions. And make sure to follow us. Follow us here on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the alert button. That way you get always informed when we come live with a company interview or another podcast. So let's switch over to Mark Santarossa. He is the VP of Corporate Development of Aurion Resources. Mark, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
No problem. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. It's a bit of a crazy world out there. So, surviving like the rest of us, hunkered down at home and just trying to keep busy and healthy. How about yourself, Kai?
Not too bad, but I see we both of us have the same problem. Our barbers are closed.
Yeah. Well, actually, I started growing this beard because of the self-quarantine. I figured, what better time to grow a beard and look more like Kai than during a self-quarantine period.
Exactly. So I've got to I've decided I'm going to handle it like the hockey players until they win the Stanley Cup once they enter the playoffs, right? So I'm just going to keep this going, and it might be another few more weeks. And I had a beard like that in January 2018, and it was just crazy. So
we get a bit much.
Yeah. So at one point we hope the quarantine and self-isolation thing gets lifted. So just for the sake of everybody.
That's right.
No, but Mark, thanks for coming on again. And we need to talk about what Aurion is doing right now. And you just put out some drill results, but we'll get to those in a minute.
Sure.
We just mentioned it, like COVID-19 coronavirus is still the topic of the day. Like, you can't open a newspaper or an internet page without talking about it. And I think you should give investors an update how it has been impacting you guys, not just in Finland, but also head office, the day-to-day. Just give us a good update what the impact was or is.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, our team is our most important asset. We've got great assets in Finland. Our most important asset is our team. So we want to make sure that their health and safety comes first. We have kind of scaled back some of the operations in Finland. All of our Canadian team has come back to Canada. They're all at home and healthy. Our head office, everything, all services, everyone works from home. Everything can be done from home. Our head office is in St. John's. Myself, the CFO, and the chairman are based here in Toronto. And so we all kind of interact, via Skype, and we have regular management meetings. But everyone's kind of working from home, maintaining our physical distances and self-isolating. But everything's still getting done. Some things are a little bit slower, but things are getting done. In country, we're lucky. We've got a great Finnish team that live near site. We're still operating. No. We're still drilling. We're down to one rig, but we are still drilling. And so things are. While it's slowed down, it's still business as usual for the most part.
No, fantastic. And you mentioned you're drillers, and that's really important. Like, the social distancing obviously being standards are filled, but they're local drillers as well, right? So give in terms of location, you guys are far away from everything. Maybe you can give us an update on that, and what's the reason why you're still drilling, and how is Finland handling the whole situation itself?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks. And that's a great question. First and foremost, our project is kind of in northern part of Finland. It's above the Arctic Circle, so it is a bit more remote. Population density is low. Most of the cases that are happening in Finland right now are near Helsinki. So obviously, it's about a population of 5 million people in the country. Most of it is in the southern part of the country. So up where we are, it's fairly the density is not that bad, but you still have access to great hospitals and all that. And like I said, our team are local to where we are, so we're near the town of Sodankala, which is excellent access despite it being fairly remote. There are daily commercial flights from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, and then it's an hour and a half paved highway to Sodankala, which is where our office is, and so. While it's remote, there's good access, and we've got the ability to social distance within our team. We've got a schoolhouse as our field office, so there's plenty of room for everyone to stay away from each other. We've got a very small crew that's there right now, And yes, the drillers are local Finnish drillers, so they're happy to keep running and open for business. So it allows us to keep going. While I know a lot of jurisdictions have shut down, we're able to kind of keep moving forward. Again, and everything is we maintain, we monitor all the everything that's going on, and should the conditions change, and our team feels unsafe or is not feeling feels that there's a risk, then we'll deal with that at that time.
Oh, for sure. No, and I think that's important. Do you see any like with drilling, you need a bunch of supply as well, and drill core needs to be carried out or needs to be logged and taken away to the labs as well. Do you see any delays there, or any disruption in the supply chain for the drillers?
For the drillers themselves, not so much. It's actually been pretty good. Our drilling has been moving at a pretty good pace, but we are starting to see a slowdown in everything again, and it's little incremental bits at every stage. So within our own team, because we have a smaller team, so logging the core takes a little bit more time. Cutting the core takes a little bit more time. Getting it to the prep lab in Sodankala, they're running on a smaller team, so again, then their prepping takes a little bit more time, and then our core gets shipped to Romania and Ireland for the assaying, and again, so now you've got fewer commercial flights all through Europe, so again, that slows things down, and again, once you get to the assay labs themselves, they're on a smaller team as well, so it slows it down. So yes, there's definitely a slower impact, or there is an impact because it is slowing things down a bit. But things, again, still things are getting done, and the way I look at it in this market, given the volatility of the overall market, although gold, the gold sector has been pretty good. Having information move slowly isn't that detrimental. When we've got a good overall market going, you want to get information out quickly. But in this market, I don't think anyone's really paying attention to how quickly stuff is coming out just right now.
Yeah, no, good point actually. In this market, and we've seen gold prices jump over 1730 today. Last I checked was 1733 or something like that. We talked about this briefly off mic, and you might be almost the wrong person to ask because you're a junior exploration company. But I'm really curious whether this gold price is attracting more generalist investors, whether you guys have been seeing more inbound calls or emails from people that you haven't heard of from the last 18, 24 months or so.
Yeah, I think specifically to us, Aurion, on the junior end exploration, we're sub 100 million market cap, higher risk because it is exploration. We haven't seen that much of an uptick on the generalist side. But anecdotally speaking with, my colleagues at some of the bigger firms, they are starting to see an uptick in generalist orders. And we've seen a couple of bought deals going for some of the producers and some of the smaller producers. And there's from my understanding is you're seeing some more generalist names coming in. And it's just starting to trickle in, I think. I think, $1,700 gold starts to, wake a lot of people up. And I think Q1 numbers and Q2 numbers even more, you'll start seeing, the quants start to step in as well, right? As cash flow numbers start coming out and that all gets picked up in algorithms. So I think we've got a long way to go. But yeah, as far as Aurion specifically, we haven't had a lot of inbound. It's been a lot of the resource specialist type funds that are still talking to us.
Okay, so resource specialist funds, that's actually quite interesting. Let's switch momentum a little bit. Let's talk about your drill results from yesterday.
Sure.
Because they've been driving your stock higher. Not just the results, but the resource investors, not the generalists, but the resource specific investors, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about the results. Give us a quick update before we jump into details here. What did you put out?
Sure, absolutely. So yesterday we put out our drilling from our Aamurusko target. So Aamurusko is one of our 100%. Aamurusko is one of our targets on our 100% Risti property, which is in northern Finland. It's where we've done most of our work. Long story short, it started off as a boulder story. We had 1,200 boulders averaging 25 grams per ton there. We started drilling at Aamurusko Main in 2017. In 2018, we hit just under 3 meters of 789 grams per ton gold, and we followed it up with a number of other hits. So it's about a 1.6 kilometer long structure or trend that we've been focusing on. So this year, or this past press release, drilling was at our northwest target. In early 2019, we drilled there for the first time and hit. It was 31 meters of 3.5 grams per ton and 28 meters of 9.5 gram per ton.
Okay.
So
I just pulled up slide 13, by the way, so people can see it.
Yeah. So slide 13, and you can see that's Aamurusko is a bit of a hill. So the Aamurusko northwest target is up in the top left. That's named northwest. And so that's where we hit earlier this year. So all this drilling that from this past press release was some follow-up on that. What we did was we followed up at depth. So we've extended mineralization to 300 meters depth. We also extended mineralization. Well, we've hit a new zone of mineralization in our hole 127, which is 200 meters kind of to the northwest of the main zone at Aamurusko Northwest. And then more importantly, this is something we want to do, was in between the gap between Northwest and Main, we wanted to test some features there, and we drilled there and had some really good success in this drilling as well. So we've really expanded the footprint.
Nice.
So to the north, in the gap, and at depth in this drilling.
Okay, so the results this time didn't yield any bonanza grades or anything like that. It's more, I think, smaller, veinier hits, but decent grade. And especially in the gap zone, I think there's more potential for bigger shoots of mineralization, right?
Absolutely, and I think I'm just going to pull this up for myself. But the one of the things that's kind of lost here is when you have a decent drill density in one area, you're going to hit a lot of those bonanza grades. This press release had kind of one hole, two holes in each of these target areas, and so of course when you think about a system like ours, which is fairly nuggety. You're really looking for a needle in a haystack there, right? So if we had put 5 or 6 holes in each one of these, from each one of these kind of drill platforms, we probably would have had those results. But this drilling was targeting expanding that footprint first, and again, it's all setting up for the follow up.
Yeah, spacing was up to 300 meters, if I'm correct, right? So talking about hitting a needle in a haystack, yeah. That's
right. So we were stepping out and trying to expand that. But what was interesting that we started seeing this in the drilling at Aamurusko Northwest. Is we're starting to see more gold in the sediments. So we've got gold in a lot of different settings. So we've got these shear vein, these shear veins that generally have this the very high grade stuff that we've talked about, plus 100 gram per ton, bonanza grade hits, and then we've got some extensional quartz tourmaline veins that have grade up to 50 grams per ton, and they're usually narrower, flatter lying, and we hit a bunch of those as well. But what was interesting is now in the sediments in between all the veins, we're starting to see some anomalous gold up to 5 grams per ton. And so it's really, talking about how rich this system is, right? You've got very high grade and you've got some low grade as well. And there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there. But we're really excited by all the results.
Talking about work that needs to be done, the press release just mentions that you also hit a depth a little further, a little deeper than what is known so far. Can you talk a little more about that and how deep have you drilled so far, and what do you see as the potential underneath?
Right. So that hole, which is holes 125 and 127, both extended mineralization at northwest to 300 meters from surface. That's an extra 120 odd meters from where our deepest hole was before that encountered mineralization. So we're excited by that. And it's an orogenic style system, and this is what we kind of where our story is. We believe we're Timmins 100 years ago, right? And we're sitting on a crustal scale fault, and we've got a great land package, and it's there have been a number of gold showings on it. So when you think of orogenic style systems, these things go for kilometers. Even the Kittilä mine, which is 40 kilometers as a crow flies from our project. They're now at deeper than 2 kilometers underground now. So we're really just scratching. 300 meters sounds like it's deep, but it's, in fact, actually the interesting part, it's 300 meters from surface, but as you can see, there's a bit of topography here.
Yeah.
On that hill. It's actually still about 60 meters above sea level. So it's we've barely gone underground at this, right? So still a lot to do. We think that this thing has legs, and it's great to be hitting the grades that we were hitting as close to surface as we have, right? The stuff in the gap was we hit over an ounce per ton, within 20 meters of surface.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to get too technical now, but let's
for sure.
let's also talk. You still got a drill going. Where is it right now, and what are you testing with the current drill?
So the current drill is actually at our Launi project. Okay. So Launi East, which is about 10 kilometers to the southeast from Aamurusko. It's along, and maybe I'll get you to jump to that slide 9.
Okay, happy to do that. I'll just switch right over again. So.
Yep.
We're going to do that. So people can see it now. Yeah, slide 9.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, there's this big crustal scale fault that runs through all of our property. That's all us. That's in color there. The red is our 100% property. The red in the middle there is Aamurusko, or the Risti property. As you follow that crustal scale fault, you see a lone star there. It says Launi. Mm-hmm. Launi East is where we've been focused on. And that's because we've through outcrop and rock samples, so we took a lot of rock samples that had excellent grade gold at surface in outcrop, and it was over 5.5 kilometers by 1 kilometer wide. So we're testing a number of targets there. That was a follow-up from some drilling that we press released in mid-January, early February.
Okay. A little more details. How many holes? How many meters?
As far as holes, I'm gonna have to follow up on that because we're using a little scout rig right now, and it's really meant to just test structural features. And I know we've been putting kind of 3-4 holes in every target, and I think we've targeted 4. I think we're at hole 25 right now. Is what we're working on, and they're all about 100 to 150 meters deep. So let's say we were talking about 2,500 to 2,500 to 4,000 meters of drilling there.
Okay, not too bad. Let's talk about financials. We've covered now the drilling aspect of it. Let's talk about financials real quick. You just yesterday as well, you announced that you postponed the release of financials, which is understandable due to friction caused by COVID-19 and everything. I'm still curious how the whole tax situation is working out here in Canada, but also like for me in Germany as well. Like we get letters in the mail that change daily, like the scenery, right? So just being an auditor right now, I don't envy those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
That's slowed things down for us, and again, being able to normally our CFO is in St. John's doing a lot of the work with our controller and the accountants there, and of course with everyone working remotely and finding the files becomes a little bit it's just like you said, just takes a little bit more time. So and that's really all it was. Just a small. I don't think there's anything there. But as far as where we're sitting. So we ended 2019 with 16 million in cash. Mm-hmm. Our planned burn at the start of the year was supposed to be $1 million to $1.2 million a month, and that's everything. So when I talk about $1 million, $1.2 million, that included all exploration, prospecting, all other sites. So it was everything. That's obviously been cut back at least by half. So the money is going to get us through. It was already going to get us through to 2021. And this with the extended slowdown and the reduced cash burn, we can go for quite a while.
No, fantastic. Okay, no, that's good because with the reduced cash burn, like you last till 2021 easily. There's no rush.
Yeah, we were going to last to 2021 at the full burn. So we're this is in 2022 now. I think if we had to stay at this pace.
No, fantastic. I'm just checking my notes because I made some show notes that we should talk about because I think we covered the drilling, mineralization at depth. We talked about the financials. I think we got a good update in, and that's sort of the purpose of this SF Live format as well. Is like when companies put out a press release like those drill results, let's go out there and talk about them, give some more color. And I really appreciate you coming on. We've covered all the...
Thanks for having me.
Unless there's something you want to mention, like news flow. I think that's another always good one to end on. Is what do you expect in terms of news flow? Obviously, things are slower. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, what I think that the main thing for news flow for us is going to be the drilling at Launi. Like I said, we've tested a number of targets. We've got about in varying degrees of where they are in the process of being assayed. We've got some between 20 and 25 holes drilled. And so we're, that's all kind of going into the system and being assayed. So that's what that'll probably be the next release is something on Launi. Right now, nothing's going on at Aamurusko. We just obviously got all the results back, and now's a good time because of the downtime and the slowness. We can really take a good look at the results and plan where the next holes are going to go. and then we can really focus on what the steps forward at Aamurusko are. But yeah, right now we're still drilling at Launi, and that will be probably the next press release coming from us.
Fantastic. Mark, again, thank you so much. Everybody else, thank you for joining us today. This was SF Live episode 18 with Aurion Resources and Mark Santarossa. Please make sure to follow us here on Twitter. Click the follow button. Also follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, and all the other channels. And as of a couple of days ago, we're also on Spotify. So you can download this video actually as an audio feed into your cell phone and listen to it on the way to work. Or actually, nobody's going to work right now. Nobody's nobody's taking the C bus or commuting right now. So, but whatever you do, if you have a boring afternoon, listen to us. But also stay tuned. Tomorrow we got a nice FinTwit panel lined up together with Brian London, Brandon McDonald, and also Willa Middlecope. So please join us for that as well. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks, Kai.